Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be talking a little bit about The Batman, as it is, of course, opening this week with early screening starting tomorrow, Tuesday, March 1st, with the fan event in IMAX, of which I know a few people who have access to that. Please make sure, of course, if you care at all about any spoilers, that you probably should stay off social media for the next few days until you actually see the film. As we all know, there are a lot of people, a plethora of people on social media who love to try and spoil things as much as they possibly can. As you can hear in the background, River hates people who do that kind of thing. But also, of course, I'm going to see it on Wednesday at the AMC Investors screening. Still had to pay, of course, for the actual ticket, but got early access to it as an AMC investor. And again, River is just very mad. She really wants to see The Batman, but not for the reason that you think. It's because she wants to be able to bark, just like she does in my own videos, at instead Catwoman. And I can only imagine why. But we have a lot of information coming out about The Batman, as it is going to have its official release on Thursday, where it'll be available for the public as early as 3 p.m. And what are some of the numbers coming out as far as the box office is concerned, as far as the box office projections? And also, is there really a lot of hype around this film based on comments that I've seen in my own comment section, and also just in general social media presence, etc., and also what is the likely scenario going to be for this film as far as long-term projections and long-term success of the film. We'll talk about all that stuff today. Please make sure, though, before we do, that you smash that like button, live that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So the first bit of, news you could say we're going to cover is from Bounding Into Comics, our friends over at Bounding Into Comics, from JB, I like to say Augustine. That's just the Catholic in me. JB Augustine, who says, the Batman director Matt Reeves suggests he wanted his Gotham City to be hopeless. Yeah, I mean, I would kind of hope that you would have a hopeless Gotham City. It kind of the purpose of, the reason why and the environment that would be needed for the Batman to be able to kind of, come to power and to come to, rise to the occasion, as it were, like rise to actually want to fight and actually want to, to partake in the vigilanteism of his city. And just from kind of a realistic standpoint, you kind of need to have that aspect of the city. And of course, it's what exactly you need in a city that's going to allow for villains like the Riddler and Penguin to be able to rise to power as well. You need to have a lot of corruption in the city, and so I think that makes a lot of sense from a practical standpoint. I just watched, actually, the most recent trailer, the final trailer before the film's release, and I definitely think it is the best trailer that they have released thus far. I've been pretty critical of the original trailers as they came out, because even though I thought that it did show some promise and potential in certain ways, there was also a lot of stuff that they showed that I just thought that it, one, didn't really feel like Batman as far as how I'm used to seeing him. Again, I'm not someone that grew up with the comics. I'm someone that grew up with Batman the Animated Series, which I've been told by many people who did grow up with comics that was probably one of the closest comic adaptations that we really have ever gotten of the character of Batman himself. And so, again, that's what I personally grew up with. And so when I see images in this, the trailers for this film where he's getting shot with a bunch of bullets and still fighting them, almost like this Punisher-esque, persona, it just definitely doesn't feel like the Batman in those instances. But yet there's so many other things and so many other shots and sequences in the most recent trailer that definitely feel a lot more like the classic Batman, and so I really am excited, and I'm really looking forward to see exactly what they're able to do on the big screen. And if it's really good, it's going to make me very excited that the film is almost 3 hours long. Again, a lot of people, I think, are definitely kind of hesitant to say, ooh, that seems like a bit on the long side. But again, if it's a good detective film, if it has a good payoff, if it has good action, if it does, justice to some of the characters and everything, I think that people will be asking for more. I think that people will be very happy with an almost 3-hour cut of the film. It also means that at almost 3 hours, the chances of there being we want a Matt Reeves cut, hashtag release the Reeves cut, is not as likely, seeing that the film's already, pushing that 3-hour mark. And that'll just be a breath of fresh air, because I'm just so tired of people saying, I want this cut, I want this cut. It's gotten to the point of it just being ridiculous because people are wanting cuts to films that are just not very good to begin with. But we'll go ahead and, obviously, let's just say that we have some hope. Gotham City may not have some hope, but let's say that we have some hope that the film might actually be a little bit good. Now, let's talk a little bit about the actual social media presence, the actual level of excitement for the film? Is there hype around the film? And I would say that it's definitely a mixed bag. If I look to the comment section of many of my videos, I would say a lot of people are saying that they are not excited for this, that they have no plan to see it, that nothing really has captured their attention. They don't trust Robert Pattinson as the Batman. And I just want to, kind of address that first thing about Robert Pattinson, because a lot of people are like, Sparkles here. Okay, he did Twilight. We get it. He also trolled Twilight and the Twilight fans a lot because he recognized that it was basically a paycheck for him to be able to, again, move along in his career, which obviously I can be critical of and anyone else can be critical of. But I think a lot of people who are being critical of him for being in those movies haven't seen him in much else, haven't seen him in some of the independent films that he has done. The dude is an incredibly talented actor. He is more than just the Twilight films. And in fact, he is by far the most successful of the actors really associated with the Twilight films, in my own opinion, as far as just acting prowess. And if you don't believe me, just go ahead and just look up any of the independent films that he has done since that time and even before that time, and you'll see that this guy does have the chops to be able to pull off a character like a Bruce Wayne and like the Batman himself. Now, whether or not Matt Reeves as a director can get that kind of performance from him, I think that is definitely something that's worth asking. But again, I think that that's probably the biggest criticism that I have the biggest issue with, because again, it's a very easy, it's a very easy burn to say, oh, he was in Twilight. Okay, so what? Remember, same things were being said about Heath Ledger. Oh, you mean the guy from A Knight's Tale? Which, by the way, is a fantastic film. You mean the heartthrob? Yeah. And he ended up doing one of the best, if not the best performance for the character of the Joker of all time. Rest in peace, Heath Ledger. But I think that it's important for us, again, to kind of move away from that mentality of, oh, Sparkles here, Sparkles boy, because, again, it just totally misrepresents him as an actor, and it really kind of misses the forest for the trees. I think that as far as the performance is concerned, that I think he'll do fine. The only thing that I have, criticism of is actually in the trailer, where he is talking with the Riddler, and there's a point where he is, doing an interrogation, and he hits and punches the glass or the plexiglass, and the performance there, I think, that falls apart a little bit there because he yells something and it just doesn't really come across as consistent with the rest of what we had seen in the trailers. And so that, to me, is not really on Robert Pattinson because, again, the director is going to see that and say, hey, this is consistent with the character, this is not consistent with the character. So it's really the director who should be able to say, okay, let's do this one again, or hey, let's use this take instead because this one fits better. So, again, whether or not that shot even makes it into the actual film, because there's a lot of times where even the trailers themselves feature things that are not in the film or are slightly different in the film. And so we'll have to, of course, wait and see when the actual movie comes out to know for sure or not. But I just wanted to get that out of the way because even though in the comment section, there are a lot of people who are skeptical about the film, and the main thing that they tend to bring up is Robert Pattinson. I don't think that's a very good reason to be able to be skeptical about this film. I think there's a lot of other things, especially in the trailers themselves. I think that the characterization of the Riddler is a much bigger reason to have some concerns about the film, because I love Paul freaking Dano. You all know, everyone who's been watching me for a long time knows that Paul freaking Dano, and there's a reason why I say freaking Dano, because that's just how much I enjoy him as an actor. I've always loved his performances in the various films that he has done. And so I was so excited when I found out that he was cast as a villain, because it was going to be a really great opportunity for him to really show off his acting chops. But then they decided to put him in this giant random suit thing that makes him look more like the Zodiac Killer than anything else. And it just, again, really, I just don't really quite understand the direction they're kind of trying to go with that. I think it's that they're trying to make Riddler into a Joker-esque character, but at the same time try and keep it, I guess you could say, more grounded in reality. But they're trying so hard to keep it grounded in reality in this specific case. They're losing aspects of the character. I mean, you can go to the Christopher Nolan Batman films and see their portrayal of the Joker. That is a grounded in reality character, and yet you look at that character and you say, oh, that's the Joker. Right, it's got we got the green hair, we got the red lipstick and everything. We got the makeup. All that stuff is there, so you can look at that. Anyone could look at that and never have seen any other Batman film before. And as long as they have a knowledge of the comics and of the basic story, they'd say, "Oh yeah, that's a Joker." If anyone were to look at the images that they have shown of the Riddler, people would say, "Who the heck is that?" I have no idea who that is. Like, other than, of course, the shots of the question marks and the riddles in the film, that is the only thing showing and indicating that this character is actually the Riddler. I'm not saying that this needs to be a character like the Jim Carrey version from Batman Forever, which, again, still has a very special place in my heart. Oh, no, it's boiling acid. I think there's a lot of fun in those films, again, because they're so bad, but they're fun. But you don't have to have, full-on spandex, with all the question marks on it, but you could have someone, at the very least being presented in, a proper suit, kind of like the more traditional Riddler character. And again, maybe a variation of that, a more grounded, realistic, gritty version of that. What they decided to do was to again, put this person in a costume that looks nothing like the Riddler. Now, again, these are all from trailers, and so there very well could be situations where it's all building up to him being presented in a more traditional costume. That very well could be the case. But again, it just doesn't really come across as Riddler. All the other characters being showed have elements and have characteristics of their characters. I mean, even Penguin, right? Even Colin Farrell, by the way, amazing makeup team there. Even Colin Farrell's Penguin, at least when you look at it, you're like, okay, no, this looks like the Penguin character. This looks like what what I would expect from a more mobster, grounded in reality version of the character. So you look at that, you look at Catwoman, you look at Batman, of course, you look at all these other characters, and they're all fitting in different ways, and obviously there's been changes and variations. The only one that really sticks out to me, though, is the characterization of the Riddler. It just doesn't quite look right, and so I don't know exactly what they're going for there. But again, I think that there is, again, reason to have some skepticism about the film, but it's not in Robert Pattinson's The Batman. I would say it's more so in the characterization of Riddler and some of those other elements that are there. Now, as far as the actual hype around the film outside of my comment section, I would say that the hype probably is there. Now, there was an early report from Scotty Boy Mendelson over at Forbes.com. You all know how I feel about Scotty Boy Mendelson, who said that the tracking, this is the industry tracking, was around $80 million debut for the opening weekend. I don't think it's going to be that low. I think that it's going to actually be closer to what we're seeing from the likes of Box Office Pro. Now, important thing to distinguish here. There is the industry standard box office tracking, of which you find talked about from Deadline, Forbes, Hollywood Reporter. So, Scotty Boy Mendelson here is talking about what the industry tracking is suggesting. So this is not his own personal tracking. This is something that is, again, more so about what the industry is saying is the likely scenario. Box Office Pro uses that same type of tracking. However, they also put their own spin on it as well. They also tend to do they have their pros and their cons, so they always break down before in these articles like what the pros are, what the cons are. They do use things like social media presence, social media engagement, things like that. So they have their own formula for being able to have their own metrics for this. And obviously, this is something where they have gotten it wrong in the past, right? Uncharted, they very much they lowballed Uncharted, and the film ended up doing a lot better than they had expected it to do. But keep in mind that typically Box Office Pro tends to over-project or project more than what the industry says. And so they probably were even closer to what was going to be the situation with Uncharted than the actual industry experts, so-called experts themselves. So when I look at what they're doing with the Batman here, saying that the opening domestic is going to be around 130 to 170, and the total domestic between 330 and 475. Again, that sounds about right. Now, it could obviously be a lot less and a lot more than that, and it's all going to depend on what that fan reaction is going to be. We'll have a very good indication tomorrow at the fan event, what the fans are saying in reaction to that. I know that there are going to be reviews that are going to be breaking as early as right now, and by the time you watch this video, because I believe the moratorium on reviews will have lifted at that point. So we'll see exactly what, the critics are saying, not that their word matters at all. What I care about is tomorrow, right? What I care about is what the fans from those first showings say. What I care about is what RK Outpost, right? What Ryan from RK Outpost has to say, because he's someone that grew up with the comics. He is someone that I would trust as far as, being able to talk about the characterizations and just how like the characters that the film is able to actually match up to. So that's what I'm going to be looking for here. As far as the box office is concerned, if I had to make a guess, I would say it'll probably do around this range, if not better. And obviously, I would not be surprised if maybe it kind of splits the difference between these two. I don't think it'll go as low as 80, but I also maybe don't think it'll go as high as 170. We'll have to, of course, wait and see, and that fan reaction is going to be the biggest part and the biggest determining factor about that. All that is to say, I'm personally excited for The Batman. I thought the last trailer did a very good job and be able to build up some of the hype. I know that there are a lot of people, though, who are not hyped for it, but I think that the thing that they're focusing on, again, especially Robert Pattinson, I don't think that is a good reason to kind of, write off the film. I think there are a lot of other things that you can look at to have issues and qualms with the film and the way it's being presented. I don't think Robert Pattinson is one of them. Unless you're going to talk about the characterization of Batman in the trailer, not fitting the standard that you have, okay, that's one thing. But if your only thing is Sparkle Boy, again, it's kind of low-hanging fruit. you can do better. But anyway, what else thoughts? Are you excited for The Batman? Do you think that the hype, maybe not from yourself, but in the actual atmosphere surrounding the film with everyone else, do you think might actually be there to present a situation in an atmosphere where this could be that next major box office hit, the next billion-dollar hit potentially as well? It is also important to note that Warner Brothers has indeed decided to work with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party of China, to have a release there, which means millions upon millions of dollars are going to be going to fund their efforts to subvert human rights violations, and I think that's always important to call out. But at the same time, we are looking at a film here that is, again, likely to be at least entertaining. At least I hope it is. Again, almost 3-hour film. It better be good. But what are y'all's thoughts about this? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. Light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my Patreon, Subscribe Star, and Locals members, starting off with Patreon animation commentator Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father. Father Damian Cook, Fuzz Aldrin, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Hymir Ari Hymason, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyles 79, Laura, The Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Owen, Stan Andrian, Teresa Martin, or Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. Also to my Subscribe Star peeps, UAB Mad Dog, which is Mr. Mike Jackson, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand For, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. And also a huge shout out to the newest members over on Subscribe Star, TL John, Trent Johnson, and Matt 317. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And to my 3 local supporters, we got Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, which is once again Mike Jackson, super supporter over there, and Robert Barnes. Thank you very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, please think about signing up on either of those platforms. You can find a link in the description below that will lead you to all of those different pages. It is known as the Willow link, as it is w.lo link, and it will have all the links to that, to the Discord channel, to all different kinds of places, including places to support me as well. At the Citizen of Asgardian level, you get Citizen of Asgardian level is how it's labeled on Patreon. Still need to fix that, but at Citizen of Asgard level, you get a shout out at the end of every live stream and video. If you join at the Army of Asgard level, you also access to a giveaways channel, which is featured on the Discord that I have. I know, River, it is very exciting. It is so exciting, where you get giveaways for things like 4K titles, Steelbook titles, etc. Again, I got some 4K Steelbooks of The Punisher, for instance. I've got 4Ks of tons of other movies, so I'm giving those away all the time. So if that sounds interesting to you, join the Army of Asgard level. Also, at the Keep of the Bifrost level, you get all of that stuff, plus you get access to a once a month and maybe twice a month. We're trying to add an extra podcast in there of me and John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where we talk about movies, and also you get to ask your questions. Any questions that you want to ask, you get to ask with that podcast. And then you have the Chosen of Valhalla level, which gives you access to all of those, and also a once a month podcast where you get to be featured with me on the main channel. We all get to talk together about movies, culture, pop culture, anything really that the Chosen want to talk about, or anything the Chosen want to promote is on the table. So if you like that, join at the Chosen of Valhalla level. Also, during your first month of support, you get a free t-shirt. Any t-shirt that you want from the main store, you get access to, and I do ship internationally anywhere in the world. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.